Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking a look here at Bitcoin, seeing what's going on. Wow, yeah, nice way to wake up to a Monday, right? Strong capitulation down to this key level support. So just to kind of touch on this here, this is actually just an article I sent out to my Twitter and Telegram groups and obviously Discord as well. Just kind of letting you know that, hey, we've got two potential bearish signs here for Bitcoin. We got a death cross here once more, right there, forming right about 28,000. And of course, a break of 25,000 would be the secondary potential bearish sign. So again, keeping above this level is important for us because that's a previous resistance and recent support before the price took off and retested that 30,000 range. Okay, so again, important stuff here. So just kind of noting that, nothing to be like super scared about, but truth is we do lose that level. There is potential for further downside to maybe fill this CME gap at about 24 to 21,000. Sorry, 20,400 to 21,200. So there is a definite CME gap that could get filled here eventually. So just maybe consider adding some limit orders in that range to be safe, just in case we see some kind of freak drop like we saw here previously. I mean, shoot, we saw a good 12% drop in 15 minutes. Actually, I think it was like a 5-minute candle from Bitcoin recently here. Why wouldn't it happen again, right? So again, that's kind of where we're at there. So again, not saying the sky is going to fall, but I am just telling you to be prepared for it. It's best to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Good news is, though, on the flip side here, we got CPI data coming up on Wednesday. And typically when you see the price action decrease into that, there's a stronger chance of an increase once that occurs. In other words, the price could be baking itself in at the 25,000 range, getting everybody fear, getting a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, and then just ramping right straight up. Granted, CPI is really terrible and negative. It could continue lower, but we do have potential support here, and that seems like a decent place to consider adding to your position, because that $25,000 price point is a pretty juicy little dollar cost average target, I would say. I've gotten a couple of fills at 25.5 and 25,000, so I'm actually happy about that. And in the big picture, I'm preparing for a worst case scenario where the price could come down even lower, so we can talk about those Fibonacci levels later. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at there. It's just good little heads up. And once again, I do want to kind of celebrate some positive stuff here. This is not all negative, not all doom and gloom. If you were part of our Discord, you would see that we had some pretty awesome results over the weekend. We took 42% from Blue Zell. I like to call it Blaze for some reason. And then Solana, nice little 20%. Keep in mind, these are longs, of course, with hitting our first profit target. The majority of our profits have been taken. Okay, so even though we're letting the rest ride, and those are tentatively in the red, well, actually not for Blue Zell, come to think of it. Blue Zell is actually almost about to hit its second target. But for Solana, for example, we took most of our profit and letting the rest ride. That's a good strategy. So I would oftentimes recommend you employ something like that if you can. Now let's talk about some front-end data here, or correction, some back-end data, and we'll take a look at some front stuff here soon. Just kind of noting a few things here with the price action. So we can see an increased amount of volume. Of course, that's more selling pressure. We can see a lot of liquidation levels here for shorts, roughly about 26,100. So if we do see a price point of 26.1 or higher, we will see a potential short squeeze and the price action shooting up. This could happen on Wednesday. So just kind of prepare yourself there for that. We could see a recovery. We don't have any accumulated longs and shorts there, but we can see with this, basically longs are getting liquidated at a much higher rate over the weekend. And of course, again, today. So we can expect that to continue until it doesn't. And we do see a higher amount of leverage delta here. So more people are utilizing leverage here in the relative recent past here. Last but not least, we can see fear and greed index is still fairly fearish, if there is such a thing. So take a look here at open interest. Let's talk about this really quick. Open interest is interesting. It's no pun intended there, but it kind of works out naturally, right? Because we can see there's a large amount of volume right at this 25,100 mark. So is that more long or short biased? Well, let's go ahead and see here, of course, where the longs are hedged at. We got a lot of unfortunate longs at 25,600 from the weekend. Okay, so from yesterday evening when the Asian markets opened, we got some longs open there, and they're all underwater and or liquidated. We can see here a lot of late longs here at 25,100. That might be a safe long, though, honestly, at this point, due to the fact, depending on it, if you're using low or high leverage, of course, it could just depend. But once more, as I always like to mention, if you're using low leverage at this point, the price fluctuates down to 24, 23, you can still survive that and be okay. Try not to jump on board with those 75, 100, 150x trades you're seeing other people taking, because they're probably getting lucky and also most likely consistently jumping in with low amounts and getting washed out consistently. Because honestly, 150x, you get such a low margin for error. It's very difficult to sustain that kind of trade. So just keep that in mind. Try to be realistic with your leverage if you're using it. Speaking of leverage, here is something that's important to note. With liquidation levels, we can see the next highest amount of liquidation is 23,200. In other words, if the price comes down to 23.2, we could see the price drop a lot further based on that being a strong liquidation level. That's probably more so likely the 10 to 20x leverage trades, and we got 20,100 for the second most amount of liquidation levels, and that's probably more so those 5x or lower trades. Because again, the lower leverage you use, the lower your liquidation level is, right? So this is probably 5x, and this is probably somewhere in the 10 to 20x range. So again, all the more reason to use lower leverage, because then you can survive these type of massive candle wicks. Because we don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin. We can only assume that based on what we've seen here so far, we're fairly bearish on the macro, and that the price will probably continue lower until it does it. Okay, so again, we're below the 20-day SMA, typically not a great sign. We've got the death cross hanging out above us. While we are getting close to 30 on the RSI, we've been proven in the recent past here that staying below 30 on the RSI is no big deal, right? So Bitcoin, just because we should expect a bounce here soon with that level, doesn't mean it will happen. We've also got a MACD divergence forming here too, so if the price action continues lower, we'll expect it to swing much further, okay? So the overall sentiment here is bearish, but keep in mind, that's what market movers do. They have a tendency of pushing the price action to such extremes where we get, we flip sides and we start thinking, oh my gosh, we are truly bearish. And then all of a sudden it ramps right back up. This is a prime example here. We got overextended here to the downside. We retested that previous support level and the price inevitably recovered. But everyone by this time was completely fearish and extremely scared that the price was going to drop lower off that rock, that shelf, like a rock essentially, and just drop hard. Okay, now this is a potential double bottom here, right? So you could argue a lot of different strategies here or thought processes, but with this retesting this level pretty significant, there's a good chance it should hold, but we can assume or should assume it won't, right? That's the best way to go. Again, assume the worst, hope for the best. And that's kind of where we're at here. So on the 4 hour, what do we see? What do we want to look at? Well, there's a few things on the 4 hour that I find to be beneficial. One of them, of course, is RSI. Obviously, again, in its history, 30 on the RSI has a tendency of not being super, super bouncy. But traditionally, minus this most recent outlier, when you're at 30 on the RSI, there's a stronger chance the price will recover from there. Now, you got to keep in mind, it doesn't just bounce up like this and go to the moon. It's rare for that to happen. Because once again, Bitcoin fell down a flight of stairs here. Okay. But with this coming down to this lower level here to bounce off that potential level, we see this Fibonacci level here at about 25,100. There's a decent chance 25.1 should sustain itself, and we should have a recovery or a potential relief rally soon. Now, relief rally could come in different ways. It could go sideways until CPI data, go up. It could literally go sideways, CPI data is bad, go down. Okay, so just keep in mind 24,300 is our next key level fib based on this most recent low. Okay, so the price wicked all the way down to 24.3. Again, this is on the BingX exchange. Some other exchanges may be a little bit lower, but for the most part, 24,000 is a pretty close approximate for a support range. So we do lose this level, we should expect to bounce around 24. Once again, when I say bounce, I would like to emphasize it's not going to shoot up or shoot in the opposite direction really fast. Okay, when you drop this hard and this quick, it takes a long time for the price to recover. This was a strong amount of volume. I think we saw almost $1 billion in volume transferred to exchanges in roughly 15 minutes. And once more, $500 million sold off in the last 4 hours shortly after. So this is complete manipulation. It's a very difficult market to manage. I would recommend if you're trading Bitcoin, once again, low leverage, low position size, make sure you utilize these key support levels, these Fibonacci rate levels, because you can see the price action stays in a range. Okay, right? We got these things here. This is one of those power of 3 as well, where the price action kind of works itself into 2 different ranges, and then the third range once again is lower. Okay, so it's easier said than done, of course, but for lack of better terms, protect yourself, use a good risk tolerance, and those are all things I teach in my trading academy. So I recommend if you're currently a community member, watch those videos a few times over to make sure it kind of sinks in, because it took me a while to figure out good risk tolerance, good risk management, and using the same amount of position per trade is ideal. Try not to just take your profits and throwing it into your next trade. That's gambling. And of course, anything over 20x leverage I think is extremely risky. Even 20x is pretty risky in a lot of ways right now. Okay. Okay, let's summarize here. Last but not least here, Ichimoku Cloud, we're below the cloud. Big surprise, we're going to stay below this for some time with this kind of significant drop in price action. We can see here, of course, that we've got quite a few hours before you want to consider closing your short position. So in essence, right now, shorts are in profits, and they're likely to continue to do so. I would not expect the price to ramp up anytime soon, but if it were to, we will see the next, the most recent low here, roughly at about 25,600, become the new potential resistance. So we could very well see some resistance at 25.6. But once again, we need a candlestick closure over 26,000 to get a really strong amount of continuation back to the upside. Okay. But I wouldn't expect much between now and Wednesday. Expect some volatility on Wednesday, though, of course, when CPI rolls out. I think it's early in the morning, like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And that is, of course, on Wednesday. So just be mindful that is coming, okay? So all in all, that's kind of where we're at here for Bitcoin once more. Hope this was beneficial for you and you learned something here today, of course. Comment below, like, subscribe, follow. Help us grow our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. They're all awesome, great, awesome, opportunities for us to be able to kind of get to know each other. We got some awesome traders in here. People actually know a lot of good stuff here. Alexander, shout out. Thank you again so much for being a wonderful admin. Greatly appreciate you. And all in all, we got some cool things going on there. So looking forward to working with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.